Well, here we are again, another MCU review. Feels like only yesterday when I was talking about Wakanda Forever. Now we have Ant-Man. Wait a minute. I don't remember anything about the first two Ant-Man movies. I'm not even sure I've seen them. How am I going to review the third Ant-Man movie with so little knowledge of the first two? This could be the end of my channel as we know it. How will I ever recover from this? I'm sure it'll be fine. Our content sucks. Our content sucks.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Come on. Do it. Do it!
Every time I sit down to review a new MCU movie, I think to myself, what could I possibly say about this one that I haven't already said? I mean, we all know exactly what we're going to get when we go to see one at this point, because they rarely deviate from their established formula. But as I was watching Antman and the Wasp Quantumania, I came to this conclusion. I think the MCU is long past the point of trying to impress anyone. They are quite literally just going through the motions, and they aren't even trying to hide it anymore. And it's up to you as an audience member to decide whether or not that is enough for you. For me, personally, I'm just never okay with the bare minimum. I never will be.
No, don't like that.
Now, some people might say I expect too much from these movies. But I would respond to those people, why should I lower my standards to justify a below average movie? And make no mistake about it, this is below average storytelling. Don't believe me? You want to know the first thing I noticed while watching Quantumania? It was the sheer amount of exposition being dropped on us from scene to scene. And poor exposition is in fact the laziest type of storytelling.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
It honestly doesn't matter if you haven't seen the other two Ant-Man movies, or even some of the Avengers movies. Because the dialogue in Quantumania will explain everything that happened in excruciatingly redundant detail. And that, my friends, is not the sign of a competently written movie. What that is a sign of is a movie that's been pieced together by a committee to appeal to the lowest common denominator.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
And this movie very much feels like that through most of its runtime. Now, when you look at the general idea in this movie, and then you look at how it was brought to life, it very much feels like a missed opportunity. Discovering and exploring the quantum realm in the Marvel Universe should make for a satisfying sci-fi cinematic experience. But similar to how Doctor Strange kind of underutilized the multiverse concept, this movie kind of does the same thing with the quantum realm.
Oh, there's a big surprise!
Its discovery by the character of Casey is glossed over more than time travel was in Avengers Endgame. And even when the characters first enter the quantum realm, they feel as underwhelmed by it as I did watching it. Make no mistake about it, this is a CGI fest. It is literally one big giant green screen. Remember when people used to complain about the Star Wars prequels doing that exact same thing? The overuse of CGI does absolutely nothing to enhance this movie. In fact, all it really does is make it feel that much more inorganic and lifeless. In this world, nothing is real and nothing feels real.
What is real? How do you define real?
And here's a question, why is it that the MCU always feels like it's straddling the line between looking like a big budget blockbuster in some instances and looking like it has no budget at all in other instances? It's a weird dynamic, but I think the uninspired, uncreative visuals are mostly to blame for that. For instance, some of the characters that are living in the quantum realm look like they are wearing bad cosplay outfits at points. It doesn't look like a billion-dollar company backed this, that's for sure.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
And that brings me to the characters, if you want to call them that. To me, Scott Lang felt like an afterthought in his own movie, and he really doesn't have much of any kind of character arc either. At the end of this movie, Scott Lang is the exact same person that he was at the beginning of the movie. From my perspective, he was boring. Hope, aka the Wasp, also has very little to do here. Perhaps this was Disney's way of sidelining Evangeline Lilly, who doesn't exactly share the same views that some people in Hollywood do.
Cancel it.
For a good portion of this story, it felt like it belonged to Casey, Scott's daughter, who is probably being prepped to be his replacement at this point. We all know that Scott Lang probably won't be sticking around for too much longer, as we see all of those original core Avengers members slowly getting replaced with every new project. There's also this weird, forced subplot where Casey is an activist, and she takes her fight for the oppressed to the quantum realm. And I'm sure this sounded more intelligent on paper than it actually ended up being. At the very least, she is persuasive though. Persuasive enough to inspire an uprising against Kang's army with a very weak speech, for reasons I guess. And then we have Janet, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, the real star of this movie. As much as I enjoy seeing Michelle Pfeiffer looking good and doing her thing, still, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me that she felt like the main character in an Ant-Man movie. And then we have Kang, played by Jonathan Majors, whose impact as a villain has been vastly overhyped. There are moments in this movie where he does have a strong screen presence that you would hope for. And I think he is trying to do the best with the material that he is given. But the script and his dialogue specifically really do let him down. So for me, this was kind of an uneven villain portrayal.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Not to mention, he doesn't really feel like the formidable threat that Marvel wants him to be moving forward, given how this movie resolves itself. As for the cringe-inducing comedy that typically plagues these movies, yes, it is here, and yes, they have doubled down on it. There is absolutely no tension in this movie whatsoever to speak of, because anything that is supposed to feel like high stakes is instantly undone by the quirky BS that we are used to seeing. Stupid one-liners that are not funny and ruin the tone of this movie from scene to scene.
Ha ha, very funny, mother.
It's actually pretty hard to believe that this movie had enough time to count how many holes Scott Lang has in his body. Riveting stuff. Honestly, I would have rather been counting holes than watching this garbage. And don't even get me started on the introduction of MODOK. He looks ridiculous, he sounds ridiculous, and he gives the MCU yet another opportunity to create a comedy bit around someone's name. Way to make your characters feel important. This is proof right here that some things are best left on the comic book page.
That makes sense.
But at least MODOK learns that it's never too late to stop being a dick. Life lessons courtesy of Quantumania. The only decent part of this movie is probably the relationship between Janet and Kang, but even that didn't feel like they went as deep into it as they could have.
Yeah, that's what she said.
When it comes right down to it, this movie felt like a waste of time to me. One big setup for a future movie, with nothing in this movie to justify its standalone existence. And that is the MCU in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I'm giving Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania the Angry Rocky.
That's right, it stinks.
Y'all be cool. Right on.